The South China Sea, one of the world's most contested waterways. Here, tensions between nations are as volatile as the waves themselves. And today, those tensions erupted into chaos. Two Chinese vessels, locked in pursuit of a Philippine boat, collided in a dramatic and dangerous incident that could further inflame the maritime standoff. It began as another tense day in the South China Sea. A Philippine supply vessel was making its way to a small outpost in the disputed waters, reportedly carrying essential goods and personnel. Shadowing it, two Chinese vessels believed to be part of China's maritime militia, tasked with blocking and harassing Philippine access to these contested territories. Witnesses say the Chinese vessels increased speed, attempting to cut off the Philippine boat. But in their aggressive maneuvering, disaster struck. The two Chinese ships collided. The South China Sea is a flashpoint for global power struggles. This collision is not just a maritime accident, it's a political earthquake. Experts warn it could lead to heightened military presence, increased patrols, and possibly direct confrontations between China and the Philippines' allies, including the United States. This is not the first time Chinese and Philippine vessels have clashed at sea. For years, both sides have been locked in a tense struggle over reefs, shoals, and fishing rights. The collision underscores the dangerous cat-and-mouse game being played out daily in these contested waters. A Chinese Navy vessel collided with one from its Coast Guard while chasing a Philippines patrol boat in the South China Sea, Manila said Monday, releasing dramatic video footage of the confrontation. The incident occurred near the contested Scarborough Shoal as the Philippine Coast Guard escorted boats distributing aid to fishermen in the area, spokesman Commodore J. Tariella said in a statement. Video released by Manila showed a China Coast Guard ship and a much larger vessel bearing the number 164 on its hull colliding with a loud crash. The China Coast Guard vessel, which was chasing the Filipino Coast Guard vessel BRP Suluan at high speed, performed a risky maneuver from the Philippine vessel's starboard quarter, leading to the impact with the PLA, People's Liberation Army, Navy warship, Tariella said. This resulted in substantial damage to the CCG vessel's forecastle, rendering it unseaworthy, he said. The Chinese embassy in Manila did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The reported collision is the latest in a series of confrontations between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea, which Beijing claims almost entirely, despite an international ruling that the assertion has no legal basis. More than 60% of global maritime trade passes through the disputed waterway. The Scarborough Shoal, a triangular chain of reefs and rocks, has been a flashpoint between the countries since China seized it from the Philippines in 2012. It was unclear if anyone was hurt in Monday's incident. Tariella told AFP the Chinese crew never responded to the Filipino ship's offer of assistance. Earlier in the confrontation, the BRP Suluan was targeted with a water cannon by the Chinese, but successfully evaded it, Tariella's statement said. Last week, China accused the Philippines of playing with fire after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the Southeast Asian nation would be drawn into any conflict between China and the United States over Taiwan. It was responding to remarks by Marcos during a state visit to India that the Philippines' closeness to Taiwan and the large Filipino community there would make involvement necessary in such a conflict. Geographical proximity and large overseas populations are not excuses for a country to interfere in the internal affairs of others, China's foreign ministry said in a statement. We urge the Philippines to earnestly adhere to the One China principle and refrain from playing with fire on issues concerning China's core interests. Water cannon. During the same operation, the BRP Suluan was targeted with a water cannon by the Chinese, but successfully evaded it. Wala sa tropa natin sa Coast Guard vessels BRP Suluan and BRP Teresa Magbanua ang na-injured. Wala rin sa mga barko natin ang nagtamo ng damage, Tariela said. The PCG added that it safely escorted the Filipino fishermen to a secure location, where they are now being provided with essential fuel and supplies. The reported collision is the latest in a series of confrontations between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea, which Beijing claims almost entirely, despite an international ruling that the assertion has no legal basis. More than 60% of global maritime trade passes through the disputed waterway. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the country's patrol vessels would continue to be present in the area to defend, as well as exercise Manila's sovereign rights over what it considers to be part of its territory. Philippine President warns of involvement in Taiwan conflict. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos cautioned that a war over Taiwan would inevitably involve the Philippines, despite its desire to avoid conflict. He described the nation as being pulled kicking and screaming into such a scenario due to its proximity to Taiwan, which China claims as its territory and has threatened to take by force. Speaking at a news conference, Marcos emphasized the need to prepare for this possibility, noting the significant number of Filipinos working in Taiwan. He reiterated in an earlier interview with Indian news outlet First Post during a visit to New Delhi that the Philippines' geographic location makes neutrality impossible in a potential China-US conflict over Taiwan. If there is an all-out war, then we will be drawn into it, he stated. Marcos's remarks prompted a strong reaction from Beijing, with China's foreign ministry lodging a diplomatic protest, accusing him of playing with fire. Tensions between China and the Philippines have escalated due to disputes in the South China Sea, where Beijing's expansive claims were ruled legally baseless by an international tribunal. Since taking office in 2022, Marcos has strengthened ties with the United States, a key ally with a mutual defense treaty, amid ongoing regional tensions. The South China Sea remains one of the most dangerous geopolitical hotspots in the world. And as this latest collision shows, one wrong move could ignite a crisis with consequences far beyond these waters. Stay with us as we continue to track developments in this volatile region. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into global security events.